Hey friends, it's Ty, your kitchen table scrapper. So in the next segment you're going to see, I'm going to take you through how I organize holidays. And in my mind, I kind of have two big sort of buckets in my head about organizing papers, ephemera, and collection kits. So I've got holidays, which for me, those are things that recur every year, and I've just got those in order. I'll show you how I do that. And then in an upcoming segment, I'll show you my general categories. So holidays would be things like New Year's, Valentine's, Mother's Day. Things in my general categories would be things like summer or baseball or horses or something like that. So I'll show you that in a future segment, but I wanted you to see how we do holidays. And then I'm also going to show you three products: vinyl dividers, a craft keeper, and then a particular 13 by 13 zippy bag. Oh, and a couple of Trader Joe's things too. So hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think. Today we're going to look at how I organize holidays. And by that, I mean, as we go through the year, just everything that's a predictable, repeatable, usual holiday. So I wanted to show you a couple of tools that I use a lot. And the first are these craft keepers. I think that might be a brand name. I'm not sure if this is that particular brand, but what I do like, I have my little measuring tape here. These are 13 by 13, and I like that they have the snap pockets. I used to have a lot that had the wind, the string that you had to wind around. And that's just, I still have some of those. I'm trying to phase those out just in favor of the snaps because the snaps are just easier. So I'll show you how I put things together in these. My other favorite tool are these big zipper bags. This is the particular brand, and I'll put the link in the description. These are 13 by 13 zipper bags. Okay, so it's important to get 13 by 13. These are 13 by 13 because if paper's 12 by 12 and you get a bag that is 12 by 12, you are not going to be able to put it in there, or certainly not get anything else in there. It's going to be a lot harder. So the zippy bags and the craft keepers. One of my other favorite tools, new tools, is the Trader Joe's bag. How fun is this? Okay, what is awesome, and I saw this online, this was not an original idea, but if you measure the bag, so this way to this way, it's 15 inches. And just in case you're wondering about the depth is approximately 10 inches. What I love about these Trader Joe's bags are a few things. A, they have a cardboard bottom, so it keeps them stiff. I love that they have handles, because remember, all of my scrapping is done either at the table, and then when I'm done, I put this back in a cupboard. I'll show you the cupboards in a different segment. Or I am going to retreats. I've got one coming up in just a couple of weeks. So whenever I get organizing for that retreat, I'll also do a segment on that. So I need to be able to carry these. Obsessed with these Trader Joe's bags. I have, they are nowhere near me out in West Texas, but anytime I go back to Austin, I can go to a Trader Joe's. Okay, so you have to have in your carrier, again, if your paper is 12 by 12, you've got to have, the zippy bag or the craft keeper. Those are 13 by 13. So then your organizer, your container here would need to be greater than 13 by 13. And you want to have a little bit of wiggle room in there, okay? So there are a lot of other organizers out there, but I have found that if you are keeping things in a craft keeper, they don't fit. They just don't fit. And that's always really disappointing, right? So I say double check your measurements before you buy things. Okay. Other favorite organizing things in here. These are, let me just measure to make sure. These are vinyl record dividers. So they are 12 and a half wide by 13 and a half tall with where the tab is. So that's important, right? If my craft keeper with the paper in it is 13 inches, I got to have something that sticks up a little bit higher than that. So these are vinyl. Again, they are made to organize your vinyl record collection, but they work perfectly here. So I'll put a link to the ones I have in the description. Again, I'm not an affiliate. I just like to show you things that work. Okay, so let me turn this around so I can actually read it. My holidays that I have in here, this will not be a surprise. New Year's, Valentine's, and love. I just put all that in one. Our anniversary is also in January, so kind of having Valentine's, love, anniversary up front works for me. Then we've got St. Patrick's Day. I don't often do anything for St. Patrick's Day, but if I do, I've got some kits for it. Easter, usually have a lot of Easter stuff. Mother's Day and Father's Day, I put those together. And again, I'm just going chronologically through the year. So Mother's Day is in May, Father's Day is in June. And then we get to 4th of July. I always do a bunch of 4th of July stuff. And this year, because it was our 250th, is it the semi-sesquicentennial? I'll have to go back and look, but I'm going to have a number of layouts I do this year for 4th of July. And when I get to those, I will be sure and do a video. Okay, then after the 4th, I have birthday. Why? Because my birthday is in August, so that's what makes sense to me. Some of you might prefer to keep your birthdays in kind of a general categories as opposed to the chronological holidays, but for me, it makes sense. That's where I would look for it. And it's not just me, it's my birthday's in August, my husband's birthday's in September, our youngest daughter is in November. So for us, birthdays kind of fall at the back of the year. Okay, after birthdays, then we've got Halloween. And then I always have a bunch of stuff for Halloween because I love dressing up for Halloween. How fun is that? Then I've got fall and Thanksgiving. I'll show you that. Again, in Texas, it's usually still a billion degrees, but you know, occasionally we'll go to a pumpkin patch and act like it's cool. And that is it. So my kits and packages and stuff stop for fall and Thanksgiving. You're like, Ty, what about Christmas? I got you covered. Christmas, because I've got so much stuff, it gets its own container, okay? This is one of the 31, is it flip and folds, fold and files, whatever it is. And so these, just to do the quick measurement, these are about 12 and a half, but they're not quite as deep, maybe about 6.5 deep. They also have a firm bottom. I do love that they have the handles so I can pick them up. So you have to be a little more careful. Again, if they're only 12 and a half, it will fit your paper, but especially if you start to put a lot of craft keepers and stuff in here, they can get kind of whoppy-jawed, okay? So that is one reason that I've really started loving these 13 by 13 zippy bags because they are flexible. So let's go back to our holidays for a sec. This is something I had been working on, was rejiggering things and putting them in these 13 by 13 bags. So usually after the initial divider, I'll have a bag and it is for kind of all of the bits or ephemera or smaller things that go with that particular holiday, but aren't a specific kit or collection per se. So for example, I've got in here some die cut titles. I've got some layout ideas. I'll just go ahead and print those out. And then I put all of that in the zippy bag right behind the divider. And then I go back through, and then everything behind that is usually a kit. I love scrapbooking with kits. You know, you saw my paper storage collection in a previous segment, and that's where I had the cardstock, and it was primarily in one of the flip and folds, like it all fit in there. And I know that kind of blows people's mind. They're like, wait, where's all your paper? So again, cardstock or anything kind of generic goes into my cardstock container. If it's a specific kit or collection, it would go in its appropriate category. Again, I love kits. They make things easier. I do, this one's by Crop Latte. And as we go through, I've already done one video on how to make a kit, kind of personalize it to you. But I always think these are a great starting point. So these really help me with, you know, kind of creative block. I don't do as well if I'm just staring at a blank sheet of paper. I do better if I at least have a jumping off point. So I've got all of my kits in behind the appropriate divider. I've also got, here's another kit company that I've used, Miss Kate. These are actually printed pages with just a few of the die cuts or ephemera that you stick on top. They're mostly printed, but again, it can be a good launch point. So there's no shame in, again, I always like to say there's no prize for doing things the hard way. So why not just save yourself a little bit of time? Again, I'm not on a design team. No one's counting on me to put any of that together. So there you go. For Valentine's and love, I have a lot of a lot of the ephemera, the bits and bobs. Again, a lot of possible layouts that I have printed, some random sheets of paper, some random ribbon. I've also got some doilies. They're kind of fun for Valentine's. So I've got all the bits right behind the Valentine vinyl divider. And then I've got my Valentine kits right behind that. So this isn't a kit per se, it's a collection. This one was Echo Park Yours Truly collection kit. So if it's an intact collection, I'll just go ahead and stick it in its appropriate category too. I hope that makes sense. As we go through, I have been, again, replacing craft keepers where possible with a zippy bag because they just take up less space. And then sometimes you'll get things that come in a zippy bag, but it's a giant one and they're kind of floppy. I'll show you an example of that here in just a sec. So any way I can kind of slim things down and make it easier, I do that. Okay, so here's Christmas. Let's pull this back again. Because I have so much stuff for Christmas, it's got its own container. This bag up front is my Christmas bits and bobs, and I have a ton of these things because I love Christmas. And usually we have multiple Christmas events. So I might do 3 different scrapbook layouts for Christmas. And then in a future segment, I'll also show you what I do with our Christmas cards, which I think is kind of cool. And I haven't seen anybody else do it. So what I have been doing is going through, so you see this particular zippy bag on this one. This was a 13 by 15, okay? And you end up with extra room here. And then sometimes they get kind of, floppy in your container. So that is a good candidate for putting it in a 13 by 13 so you don't end up with so much zippy bag at the top, or you don't have to fold them down to be able to see your vinyl. But my Christmas kits, I love. This is, what was this one? This was a Simple Stories. This was a Scrappy Happy Designs did a kit using the Simple Stories, which I love Simple Stories stuff. I wish they would come out with a ton more. And then what I've got as I go through this particular divider is Quick Quotes Christmas. And that's a tongue twister. I used to go to a lot of the Great American Scrapbook Convention, the Scrapbook Expo, the CKC events, and I love a good event. Quick Quotes is often one of the anchor sponsors, and so a lot of the classes that they offered were Quick Quotes classes. And so at one point, and then they also had a monthly club. At one point, I think I had 50 Quick Quotes kits. Now here's the deal. They're great. I use them as launching points. However, one only needs so many. And then I started to find, again, because I had so many, I started to find them kind of looking a bit repetitive, like repeating a lot of the same colors. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to really skinny down my Quick Quote kits. I'm either going to use them or, keep my favorites. And then at the particular retreat that I go to with my mom and the Scrappy Chicks, they always have garage sale tables. So you can just put things out there that you can give away, you can price them, you can, make a little bit of money. So that's what I'm doing this year with my Quick Quotes kits. But I've got my favorites in there. And then I've got Christmas Miscellaneous, which right now is a paper pack. I told y'all last segment, I don't love paper packs. Oh, there's a jingle bell. This was a Paper Studio pack. Honestly, I'm not even sure why I got it, but it has a lot of things in here, and honestly, things that could be used not just for Christmas. I love dots. I love distressed dots. We've got some great papers that could be used. This could be a winter. I mean, this is, you know, a deer print. I've got other deer stuff. This is, you know, that's a great snow, music. And so this could go for a lot. Probably what I'll do is deconstruct this paper pack and see if I can pull some of these other papers and put them in a place where I might actually get some use out of them. So I think that's only my second paper pack that I've still got, but right now it's living in the Christmas miscellaneous. Okay, let me know what questions y'all have. And I get people reaching out to me off of the channel, which is great. But you can also drop your questions in the comments and I'll answer them for everybody. But let me know what questions you have about how you organize your recurring holidays. How do you set those up? Do you set those up in their own categories? Do you have them sorted by bins? Kind of let me know what you do, because this has been an evolution over time as I continue to work on things that work for me. And again, things for me that are portable, that I can easily grab and take to a crop. Now, again, I'll show you how I prep for a crop coming up in an upcoming segment, since that's coming up. I am trying not to take the whole thing when possible, although I could. It's easy, I can just pick it up. But if I plan ahead and know exactly what I'm going to work on, then I can just grab that particular section or a particular kit out of that section and make life easier for me. I'm still working on that though. Okay, let me know what questions you have, and thanks again for watching. Bye.